When it comes to modern gaming, the Nintendo Switch is the king of couch co-op. There's so many first-party Nintendo games with a focus on couch co-op gaming, and there's a lot of exclusives, but of course there's lots of third-party and indie games that have been released for the Switch as well. So let's talk about the top 20 all-time best couch co-op games on the Nintendo Switch. Let's start with Castle Crashers. This is the one that really got me back into gaming. For a while, I kind of just took a break. I wasn't seeing a lot of couch co-op games in popular gaming. Just seeing a throwback 2D beat 'em up style game really caught my attention. And I kind of realized I didn't really lose interest in gaming, I just wasn't that interested in the new games that were coming out. So once I started playing Castle Crashers, I got really excited about gaming once again. And I started looking deeper and deeper into the Xbox Live Arcade library, where I found a number of great co-op games by independent developers. Castle Crashers is a great beat 'em up. But what really made it interesting was the 4-player co-op gameplay. Playing this with my brother and my friends back in the day really makes this one of my all-time favorite games. Diablo 3 Eternal Collection. Some still consider this to be the peak of the Diablo series. It has drop-in, drop-out couch co-op for up to 4 players on the same screen. And it has real-time action between the story campaign, adventure mode, rifts, seasons, and endless loot grinding. There's always something to chase. There's 7 distinct classes, and each have their own unique skills. And then there's just tons of room for synergy. Every few minutes you're getting new gear, upgrading your build, or discovering some crazy legendary item. And there's just tons of freedom to tweak skills, runes, gear, and passive abilities to match your style. You could play a 15-minute rift or lose a whole weekend grinding with your friends. It's flexible and satisfying either way. Like I said, many still consider this to be the peak of the Diablo series, and maybe dungeon crawlers in general. Lovers in a Dangerous Spacetime. This is a game that's best played with 4 players. It's kind of a mix between a space shooter, a puzzle game, and a 2D platformer. You and your friends have to work together to control a spaceship. It's going to require constant management and teamwork. The ship is divided into various stations, including engines, weapons, shields, and the map. Each player must jump between stations, responding to different threats and navigating through a series of dangerous levels. So teamwork is really essential here. You have to communicate and work together. Even though it has a really lighthearted, whimsical setting and tone, the game becomes pretty frantic and overwhelming at times, which definitely adds to some frustration. But that's not to say that it's too difficult for newcomers. It's easy enough to just pick up and play, but as you progress, it definitely becomes more and more difficult. So you're going to want to find teammates that know what they're doing. This is one of those standout indie games that was just built for co-op gameplay. Hyrule Warriors is basically just Dynasty Warriors with Zelda characters, and Age of Calamity is the prequel to the Breath of the Wild story. There's a lot of fan service and character backstory here, with some really cool cutscenes. You can play the whole game in split-screen co-op. Unfortunately, in split screen, the frame rate does take quite a bit of a hit, especially during large battles. But if you can get over that, the gameplay is excellent, especially if you like Dynasty Warriors games. This is one of my favorite co-op Zelda games, and it's just really cool to be able to play through this whole story with a friend. But I would like to see a mainline Zelda game with some split screen co-op. Fingers crossed that will happen eventually. Another standout indie game that gained a lot of popularity and attention is Overcooked. And that's for good reason. This is a game made for co-op gameplay, and it's perfect for parties, but be prepared to probably get into some arguments with your friends. Basically, you run a restaurant. As you get orders in, you're gonna have to work together to prep the food, wash the dishes, and serve the plates. This game takes a lot of communication and cooperation. And when you're just patiently waiting for your friend to chop those onions so you can complete your dish, it can become incredibly frustrating. But that's what makes Overcooked great. It's just a really fun, chaotic experience. And the more players you get, the better. I definitely recommend you play it 3-player minimum, but 4-player is optimal. Unravel 2 is a 2D puzzle platformer. It was just built around co-op gameplay. You and your friend each take control of this yarn character. You got a red one and a blue one, and you're tethered together by a long strand of yarn. This game takes a lot of communication. In order to get through any obstacle, you're gonna need to work together. Sometimes you'll be swinging on the yarn while the other player holds in place. Other times you'll be pulling your character up to the next platform. And sometimes you're just gonna need to be jumping in sync. This is really one of the best co-op platformers I've ever played. So if you haven't played it, definitely try it out. And it's a game that you can pretty easily pick up and play. And it's not too long, so you could probably beat it in a session or two. Children of Morta. This is a heartfelt hack-and-slash roguelite RPG with a beautiful pixel art style. The whole game supports local co-op start to finish. No unlocks, no gimmicks, jump in together and start fighting the corruption as a team. From the beginning, you're playing as members of the Bergson family, and they all have different fighting styles. You have ranged, melee, magic, brawlers, agile rogues. There's just great variety, and when playing 2 players, you can kind of pick and choose which team works best together. Unlike most roguelites, this one cares about its story. Even after failed runs, the plot moves forward with narration and emotional cutscenes. The game has some real emotional depth, but the controls are very responsive. You have quick dodge rolls, satisfying attacks, and special abilities that make every character feel useful in co-op. Even if you are not successful with a run, you still earn XP and resources to upgrade the whole family's skills, so every run matters. Like I said, the pixel art here is gorgeous. This is some of the best 2D pixel art I have seen in modern times. This is an excellent co-op game, but all that being said, it is very difficult, so you have to find a partner who can match your skill and patience. Every once in a while, an indie game comes around that really takes the world by storm. Cuphead is definitely one of those games, and that's probably due to the beautiful hand-drawn art style. It's made to look like an old Disney cartoon, and they really pull it off. This is some of the best art you'll ever see in any 2D video game. But that's not the only thing that makes the game good. Of course, the gameplay is incredibly solid as well. It's basically a run-and-gun platformer, but mostly focused on boss fights. And this one is incredibly difficult. I played through this game with my brother, and I think we died over 1,000 times. It might be the most difficult game that I've ever been able to complete in co-op. But this is another one that's just an excellent run and gun shooter. Mario 3D World is of course a 3D platformer. I really love this game, and I have a lot of fond memories of playing it with my daughter. It's one of my favorite 3D platformers, although I don't think it works as well as a co-op game. As usually the camera is kind of unpredictable, and it starts following one player, and then the other ones get left in the dust and then just go into bubbles. So as you can imagine, playing this with a young child, it can become really frustrating. But that being said, this is an excellent 3D platformer, one of the best of all time. And Kirby's Return to Dreamland is another game that originally came out on the Wii, and this one can also be played with up to 4 players. And it's one of the best in the Kirby series. It's basically a classic 2D side-scroller featuring Kirby and his allies. You could play as Meta Knight, King Dedede, and Waddle Dee. It has some basic puzzle solving and boss fights and vibrant level designs, like you'd expect from a Kirby game. The difficulty never gets too hard here, so it's pretty accessible for younger players. But that doesn't mean that it's not worth playing for more advanced players. It's just a really polished experience. So even though it might not be super difficult, it's still just a really satisfying and fun game for anyone to pick up and play. Kirby is always a reliable source for co-op gameplay, especially when you're looking for something that's more relaxing. Sometimes I want to play a platformer that I can just enjoy and not pull my hair out struggling to get through the levels. That's what Kirby is perfect for. And I think that Kirby's Return to Dreamland is probably the best in the entire Kirby series, at least when it comes to co-op games. Rayman Legends is a 4-player platformer. You play as Rayman, Glowbox, and a variety of other characters as you fight your way through inventive levels. This is one of those games that just has some of the tightest platforming I've ever played in any platformer, especially the music-based levels. You jump around and hit the enemies in sync with the music. This is some of my favorite game design of all time. The game is easy to pick up and play. The mechanics are all pretty simple, so anyone of any skill level can at least try the game out. But the later levels do get pretty tough. I can't say enough about Rayman Legends. I just think that it's one of the best platformers of all time. Captain Toad Treasure Tracker. This game originally came out on the Wii, but it was only a single-player experience. The Switch version added co-op. You go around these 3D environments, rotating the camera, trying to find hidden secrets. You play as Toad and a Toadette. Unlike most Mario games, there's no jumping. You'll just have to solve the puzzles using observation, timing, and a bit of trial and error. So there are 2 co-op modes. Player 2 can do an assist mode with a cursor, or take control of a second Toad for a more equal co-op experience. I think this is one of the best Nintendo co-op games in a long time. One of my favorites on the Switch, and this is just a really unique experience. It's about taking your time, solving the puzzles, slowly figuring things out. This is definitely one of the best co-op games on the Switch. Sea of Stars. I know that this game was originally a single-player experience, but as of November 12th, the DLC titled Dawn of Equinox was released. This update allows you to play through the entire story in 3-player local co-op. And this is what I've been waiting for. I remember when this game was originally announced on Kickstarter, and co-op was one of the features that they talked about. But when it came out, it was for some reason missing. So I'm really glad that they finally came around and added it. I love RPG games, and there's just not enough co-op RPGs. Everything about Sea of Stars is exactly what I would want in a co-op game. I love the visuals, the active turn-based combat kept my interest, and it's just a really long story-based game built around co-op. This might just be one of the best co-op games of 2024. While we're talking about 16-bit inspired games, I gotta mention Blazing Chrome. This one is clearly an homage to the Contra games, specifically the Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis entries. It has the same fast-paced run-and-gun platforming action, with a variety of weapons. This honestly ends up being a game that might even surpass the games that influenced it. In my opinion, Blazing Chrome is truly one of the best run-and-gun shooters of all time. It might be my favorite. It has excellent art and tight gameplay, and the music is really good too. Again, this is another one I just can't say enough about. You gotta try Blazing Chrome. Pikmin 3 Deluxe is another game that came out on the Wii U and was ported to the Switch. And of course, this version also added co-op. It's a blend of real-time strategy and puzzle solving. You command the little Pikmin characters to gather, fight, and explore. And this is really an equal co-op experience. You can work together, or you can split up. One player can handle combat while the other manages exploration and multitasking. You have different colors of Pikmin and they all have different abilities. So you gotta use the various Pikmin to solve the various puzzles. But it's just so disappointing that Pikmin 4, when it came out, only had an assist co-op mode, especially when Pikmin 3 was such a great co-op experience that was really equal between 2 players. But again, one of my favorite Switch games. TMNT Shredder's Revenge. I honestly can't think of anything that they could have done to make this a better game. It's exactly what you'd want from a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game. And the pixel art is awesome. But this one, you can actually play with up to 6 players, which we hadn't really seen since the X-Men arcade game. Not only that, you could do a combination of local players or online players, and it's really easy to set up. It's totally seamless. It also has the original voice actors from the cartoon series, a really cool soundtrack, and just the pacing here is perfect. The levels are just short enough so they never feel like they overstay their welcome. This is easily the best Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game ever made. And between this and Streets of Rage 4, these 2 games really set the bar high for making an excellent modern beat 'em up. Super Mario Wonder. This one came out exclusively for the Nintendo Switch. And this is the evolution of the 2D Mario platformer that I was waiting for. I love the new Super Mario Bros. Games, but they did start to become a little bit stale, especially the art style. It just looks kind of generic. And when it comes to co-op gameplay, I think that this one is a huge step up as well. You're no longer able to push your teammates off the screen or screw them up during tricky platforming sections. So this one feels like it has more of a focus on actual co-op gameplay. I love the visuals here. It just has a really nice stylized look. Being able to play this with 4 players is a really nice experience. And I just love that they added more characters here. Players 3 and 4 don't just have to be some generic Toad anymore. You can actually play as Daisy, Peach, Yoshi, and then of course you got the Toads. But the controls are incredibly tight. There's so much creativity here. The soundtrack is definitely a step up as well. And above everything else, it's just a really fun experience. Once this game came out, I couldn't put it down. Me and my daughter just played it non-stop until we beat it. I can't say enough about Mario Wonder. It might just be my favorite Mario game of all time. It's definitely the best co-op one. If you're like me, you probably grew up with the Streets of Rage series. Streets of Rage 2 has always been my go-to when it comes to beat 'em ups. I still think it's probably the all-time greatest. When Streets of Rage 4 came out, it kind of just did everything that that game did, but better. I don't know if it's the best of all time, but it's definitely in the argument. It really just set the bar for the modern era, and it's become the new gold standard for modern beat 'em ups. I really didn't like the hand-drawn art style at first. I wanted to see the pixel art like the original games. But once I started playing it, it actually felt right. It really honors the original trilogy while modernizing the combat. I like that you can juggle the enemies now, and they can't hide off the screen. That was an annoying thing. And now there's a separate button for picking up items, so you're not just picking up the items accidentally while fighting the enemies. There's a lot of quality of life improvements here. The soundtrack here is really great as well, but I still think Streets of Rage 2 has the best soundtrack of any video game ever. And of course we have the addition of 4-player co-op gameplay. I can't say enough about Streets of Rage 4. It's truly just one of the best beat 'em ups of all time. Portal 2 builds on the original with even more complex and inventive puzzles, using portals, lasers, light bridges, and gels. The dialogue is some of the funniest and sharpest in all of gaming. The main standout feature though is the co-op mode. It's a separate, fully fleshed out 2-player campaign where you really have to work together and communicate. It's completely essential. You and your co-op friend play as Atlas and Peabody, and they have their own unique personalities and animations. The game starts accessible, but ramps up to some really complex puzzles. The game is just visually and mechanically polished, and it remains one of the best co-op experiences of all time. We can't talk about co-op gaming without talking about It Takes Two. Every level introduces a brand new mechanic or genre twist, keeping the gameplay fresh from start to finish. And the game is designed exclusively for co-op, so you can't play this game in single player. Each player has their own unique abilities in every level, and pretty much every single part of this game is going to require coordination and teamwork and constantly communicating to cooperate through these puzzles and various scenarios. This is honestly one of the best co-op games of all time. Hazelight Studios is just continuing to outdo themselves. A Way Out was another excellent game, as well as Brothers, and their latest Split Fiction might even be better than It Takes Two. But unfortunately, that one was not on the Switch. But until Split Fiction came out, I will say that It Takes Two is pretty much the gold standard for co-op gaming. So there you go. I think those are the top 20 co-op Switch games of all time. A lot of other games I could have included, but those ones are my favorites. Which ones are yours? And if you enjoyed this video, check out this playlist about co-op Switch games. And thanks for watching.